Call this meeting of the North Adams City Council to order for May 12th, 2020. This meeting is being recorded. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Adams City Council is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted. This meeting can be viewed live on the Northern Berkshire Community Television Station and will be posted to NBCTC's website as soon as possible. Will the clerk please take the roll? I'll just read. We haven't read yet. Blackmer?
Here.
Bona?
Here.
Harpin?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here. LaForest? Lamb?
Here.
Moulton?
Here.
And Sweeney?
Here.
And Wilkinson?
Here.
All present and accounted for. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance if you can stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. First order of business tonight, approval of the minutes of our May 28, 2020 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Councilor Lamb, second from Blackmer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. For the purposes of tonight's meeting, may I have a motion to suspend rules 10 and 11?
So moved.
Motion from Councilor Harpin, second from Councilor Lamb. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Mayor's communication number 22, paper 11,869, requesting time to give an update on the COVID-19 pandemic. Without objection, I'll file the communication. And Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I always make the assumption that this is going to be a brief update, and by the time the meeting rolls around, I have more to say than I expected, but I will try and move through it fairly quickly. To begin with, what I would like to do is emphasize once again the importance of the census. We've talked about it before. A complete and accurate census count is critical for everyone, and in particular for our community. Everyone has the option to complete their census survey online, by phone, or by mail. The best place to get information is 2020census.gov. I have two pieces of good news since the last time I spoke to you about the census. The first is that our response rate has gone up by about 8.5, almost 9 points since 2 weeks ago. We're still ahead of Berkshire County, slightly behind Massachusetts, and very close to the United States average. The other good piece of news is last week I heard from the Secretary of the Commonwealth that the city has been awarded a $10,000 grant to focus on outreach to hard to count census populations. That would include, among other groups, children under the age of 5, renters, and people who move frequently, so-called transient populations, people with disabilities, people with low income, immigrants, and other subpopulations that we want to make sure that we're reaching out to. We have a short turnaround to spend the money. We have to do that by the end of the month. And our local complete count committee jumped right into that with some creative ideas. The city clerk's involved with that, as is staff from the Office of Development, the North Adams Public Schools, the Community Coalition, and MCLA. So we're going to be looking at direct mail, billboard, lawn signs, and a few other things to get the message out and continue to boost that census rate between now and the extended period is through October, when they're going to begin enumeration door to door, but I want to see if we can get as many people counted as we can before that. With that, I will turn back to the regular part of the meeting and try and figure out how to deactivate screen share. Stop share. Thank you. I would remind everyone that the best source of information for COVID-19 data remains the daily DPH dashboard, the information coming out from the Department of Public Health. If you look at the data, the trend over the past 2 weeks locally and statewide has been encouraging. We really have seen a leveling off over the past 2 weeks. But it's important to remember at all times that that is thanks to, and it will only continue if we continue to follow state guidance. That's the stay-at-home advisory, that's the mask order. Having said that, it's important to acknowledge that the last 8 weeks have not been easy. Deadlines have changed, new requirements have been put in place. We've pivoted as our local response has gotten reevaluated in the face of new guidance from the state. I think it's safe to say we're blazing new trails without a map. We've been tested in many ways, and many of us, myself included, are feeling pretty tired right now, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I want to express my appreciation to the council, to city staff, and to everyone who has stepped up. That includes our first responders, healthcare professionals, folks in our grocery stores and our restaurants, everybody on the front lines, and I would include parents and families in that as well. People are doing hard work day to day, following the stay-at-home guidance, practicing physical distancing, wearing masks. Businesses and employees have sacrificed during this time, there's no doubt, and everyone is adapting to the new circumstances and reaching out and doing their best to provide support. I've talked about it before, but the work happening at the North Adams Public Schools has been exemplary. They're connecting with remote learning to keep connected to their students. It's not a perfect system by any stretch, but none of these systems that we've put in place in any school district is perfect, but it is providing a level of connection. Again, I want to thank and acknowledge that parents are carrying a piece of this load and this burden as we have moved to remote learning. The district has provided tens of thousands of meals and continues to. It's provided hundreds of devices. We're staying connected through our special education program and our adjustment counselors. We're staying in contact with students. We're continuing to work on how we will celebrate and recognize our students, especially our graduates. And I know that the school continues to work on that. And we're trying to plan for what it will look like when schools begin to reopen and we get some guidance around that. We're also focusing on our response to food security, to domestic violence and sexual assault, to substance misuse and recovery, to support for youth. And I know members of the council and members of the community have been directly involved in a lot of those efforts. And I think we know that the current situation makes it more difficult for us to meet these needs, to address these challenges, but that's part of the reason that it makes it so important to do the work we can to stay connected and to keep a lookout for the needs of our vulnerable neighbors, our family members, and our friends. So if that's where we've been, the next question is what's next? The reopening advisory board that's working with Governor Baker is scheduled to provide its full report next Monday. I think the clear message has been we probably should not expect the starting gun will sound on Monday. What we'll see is guidance and guidelines, and we'll start to see, I think, some more of that in the lead up to the report. In fact, you may have seen the governor started that rollout process yesterday with the announcement of a 4-phased approach that the state is going to follow around all of this work. Again, I'll show you what came out yesterday from the reopening advisory board. This is the general model, and we're not at the starting point of phase 1. So the first phase will be this limited industries opening up. We'll move into a cautious phase, a vigilant, and then a new normal. The key things is there are not yet timeframes associated with any of these things or the metrics which will let us know how we've succeeded. We don't know what industries will be in the first phase yet, although we do know that current essential services will retain their authorization to operate. The advisory group has made it clear that their decisions will be influenced by public health. It will involve mandatory safety standards for all workplaces and sector-specific protocols and practices, which are being released. Those initial standards focus on social distancing, hygiene, staffing and operations, and cleaning and infecting. And again, this is what the general rubric of that looks like. The Lieutenant Governor in a meeting today said the expectation as the rollout begins is that businesses will be responsible for self-compliance and that investigation and enforcement will be based on concerns as they are raised and reported. So I think the clear message in all of this is there's still a great deal we do not know, and we will continue to follow the guidance as it's released. And that's a really perfect transition to talking about the budget. I hate to admit what I'm about to say, but it is possible that I know less than I did 2 weeks ago when I spoke to the Finance Committee. And the only reason I can admit that is that many other people are in the same boat. I've heard a lot of different metaphors, flying blind, we're in a perfect fiscal storm, pick your favorite. But the message is there's still a lot of unknowns. These include the depth and duration of the COVID-19 crisis and how quickly we can move through some of those phases, what the timing of the state budget process looks like, what the effect of state revenue projections will look like. The current projections point to a $4 to $6 billion loss in tax revenues due to the pandemic. For us, where about 44% of our budget comes from state revenue, that's an incredibly concerning number. And until we have projections, we really are flying blind. The effect on local revenues, we talked at the finance meeting about potential impacts on meals and room taxes and the overall collection rate. And then the other big unknown is what relief, if any, we might see from another round of federal stimulus and how quickly that might come. The Mass Municipal Association, among others, has said that direct federal funding is going to be necessary to support local programs and services for cities and towns, so we're watching that carefully. And then last week, the Senate President noted that the legislature may move to pass monthly budgets if necessary. I would still prefer, when I come forward with numbers, to do annual numbers, but we're looking at all options, including the potential for continuation budgets, if it comes to that, to responsibly budget given the unknowns. And as soon as we have some clear guidance, we'll start converging the frameworks that we have and be able to bring some real or concrete numbers to you. We're doing another meeting with finance next week, and again, I hope to have better information for you all at that time. And then lastly, I will share, as I have in the past, just a few items related to good sources of information. These would include, again, state resources, the mass.gov website, Mass 211, texting COVID-MA to 888-777 to get text alerts, and then the governor's daily updates on YouTube. Unemployment assistance information for folks making their way through the unemployment system, the CARES Act, Pandemic Unemployment Assurance, mass.gov/DUA. For survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, the state SafeLink program at 877-785-2020, and our local Elizabeth Freeman Center, 866-401-2425. Again, the information for our local operations center, the 413-662-3614, or nbcovid@gmail.com. And what I want to leave you with before I switch over to taking some questions is just two videos. And counselors, I'll pop the YouTube links that are in these next two slides into the chat so you can have them directly. Oh, sorry, there's one more slide of some local resources. Again, thank you, Councillor Harpin, for putting this together. And then one is from Berkshire Health Systems, and it's just a reminder, as the governor, as others, I think I said it in the last update, just reminding people not to delay care, that emergency departments are open and accessible. And then the other one, because we could all use something to put a smile on our face in these times, is the Berkshire United Way and the Berkshire Museum put together this great video thanking frontline workers. And I popped an image of that, of some of our folks from the video in that. And that's a great Nick Mantello shot right there in the video. And again, I will share those links right now in the chat with you. But I will stop talking and turn it over to the council.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. I'll just note that I did fill out not only the federal census, but also our city census, and all should be doing that. Questions for the mayor? Signify by raising your hand if you would. Councilor Harpen.
Just a quick question. They've been having meetings. Is there a meeting that you can send to some of the counselors, or maybe the finance committee of maybe with the state is, you know, if there's a Zoom meeting in the afternoon or something coming up in the next week that we could just maybe get some information from, that would be helpful?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what's coming up. Let me check, and if there's something, I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Councilor Blackmer.
You're muted.
I know, Marie, you're already registered for this, and I sent everybody an inbox. But the Mass Municipal Councils Association, is running a webinar tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, and it's on budgeting, and it's kind of focused on, one, the basics of budgeting, because there's so many new counselors or relatively new counselors across the state, but also so many counselors have never been through an economic decline like we've seen. The presentations by Thatcher Keyser, who was a mayor of Amesbury in 08, 09, when all that happened. He's also the administrative, kind of the COO, I think, of the town of Framingham, that's now a city. And he used to work for the MMA. So he's got a really broad background and understands budgeting kind of. I know when you talk to, some of you have seen things with Sean Cronin from the Lieutenant Governor's office, but he gets in the weeds. Thatcher's more big picture and more process and less, I guess, in the weeds is the best. So that's one way to kind of find out budget process and what we have for numbers. I don't think we're going to have numbers, at least in the next week or so. I think it's going to be a little longer.
Thank you. Yes, I did see that link, and I'll try to join that online. Other questions for the mayor from councilors? Seeing none. Thank you, Mayor. That's all great information. Thank you.
Yep.
Next order of business tonight, paper number 11,870, Mayor's Communication number 23, recommending the reappointment of Michael Canales to the Hoosick Water Quality District for a term to expire April 8th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Move to appoint.
Second.
And second from Councilor Wilkinson. Discussion, Mayor, any information you want to offer?
I'll just say now that Mike and Tim, who you'll take up in the next paper, continue to do a very good job managing the city's role with Hoosick water quality. Tim is a former plant manager, understands it, and Mike's been doing it for a number of years. And so they're kind of the city's steady hands on that wheel.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to confirm. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Paper 11,871, Mayor's Communication number 24, recommending the reappointment of Timothy LaScarbo to the Hoosick Water Quality District for a term to expire April 1st, 2023.
Move to adopt.
We have a motion from Councilor Wilkinson, second from Councilor Lamb. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. And paper 11,873, Mayor's Communication number 25, recommending the reappointment of Elizabeth DeLago to the Register of Voters for a term to expire April 1st, 2023. Is there a motion to confirm?
Move to confirm.
Councilor Blackmer and seconded by Councilor Sweeney. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's unanimous. Thank you all. Sorry. Any committee reports or minutes? Councilor Harpen, I know your finance committee is meeting next Tuesday evening. Is that correct?
That's correct. And, you know, we met 2 weeks ago as well, April 28th, and the mayor pretty much went over, you know, what we had reviewed, and, you know, we're really just waiting on the state. So see what happens and what information comes in between now and next Tuesday, and we'll go from there. So.
Thank you. Other committee reports? Councilor Lamb.
Yeah, this is not so much a report, but just a note that the Community Development Committee will be scheduling at least one meeting in the near future. Community Development Office has a lot of projects on their docket, and similar to what we did a couple months ago, where they sort of gave a slate of the work that they were going to be working on, we have another batch of that to bring forward, just so that the committee is aware and the community is able to know sort of the timeline on things that they're looking to bring forward. So working with Zach Fury and the mayor to schedule when that will be. And then I'll work with the committee to figure out specific dates and times, and we'll distribute that out.
Very good. Thank you. Other committee reports or minutes? Seeing none, we have no licenses. Mayor's concerns?
Nothing beyond what I shared, except again, you know, my hope is to do more at the next finance committee than confess my ignorance.
We wish you well. Councilor concerns? Going once, going twice. Seeing no hands. Thank you very much. We also have no correspondence tonight, so the motion would be in order to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
You're muted.
Space bar was